Thank you to every member of the Chemung County Democratic Committee who helped make this event possible and is working so hard this year to elect Democrats up and down the ticket. I want to particularly thank Kay Newberry, who puts together this event every year, this annual fundraiser, and who, without missing a beat this year, has put it together in a virtual way that's going to make sure that all of us connect and support Democrats, no matter the fact that there's a pandemic out there and we can't gather together in person. And I also want to thank Dora Leland, the chair of the Chemung County Democratic Committee. Dora, you are indomitable. You fight nonstop for working people and democratic values up and down the line. And it is such an honor to do this work alongside you, as it is with every member of the committee. I'm Leslie Dangsberg. I'm running for New York State Senate in the 58th District, and it's my real honor to be with you here today and talk with you about my view of a recipe for success. I love to cook. I love everything about it. I love picking out the ingredients. I love the solitude in my kitchen when I get to create something out of those ingredients. I love thinking about the people that I'm going to be bringing to the table together. I love planning what they're going to eat, thinking about whether they're going to enjoy what I've pulled together. I love the experience of everybody coming together around the table. I love eating the food, and I especially love, after the food is eaten, sitting around the table and talking for hours if you have time, enjoying the process of everyone coming together around a meal. That makes me happy. And I think it was a brilliant idea to come up with a recipe for success as the theme for this year's Chemung County Democratic fundraiser. I'm all about getting the issues and the people of the Southern Tier and the Finger Lakes to the table in Albany. To get us to the table, here is my recipe for success for the Southern Tier and the Finger Lakes. First, we have to get jobs to the table. Our region still hasn't fully recovered from the 2008 Great Recession, and now we're in the economic fallout of the COVID pandemic. We're facing an economic crisis that already had too many young people leaving our region to find a bright future elsewhere. We have to stop and reverse this trend. We have to stop the highway robbery and get the full dollar that we're paying into the Bridge and Highway Trust Fund to bring good infrastructure jobs to our region and repair our roads, our bridges, our culverts, our roadways, so that we can move into the 21st century. We have to invest in clean economic development, not just to help us fight the existential threat of climate change, but also to bring new jobs in renewable energy to our region. We can help our local farms by lowering taxes and cutting regulatory burdens on small farmers so that they can grow big enough to compete and keep away the big monopolies that are knocking at our door. My opponent, Mr. O'Mara, doesn't even believe that there's a problem with jobs lacking in this region. He says there's plenty of jobs for anyone who wants to work. That's flat out not true, and we know it. The next ingredient in the recipe is tax reform. Our taxes are through the roof. We're paying more than just about any other part of the country, and that money is not coming back here for our schools, our bridges and roads, our infrastructure, and our children's future. Our children's schools get less than other parts of the state. It's no child's fault where that child gets born. Right now, in the richest state in the country and the richest country in the world, with the highest taxes, the water has been shut off in my children's school for the last 4 years because the pipes are leaching lead into the water and it's undrinkable. That's unacceptable. We need a new recipe for success. It's not just schools. Our bridges are crumbling. Let me tell you what I'm talking about. There's a big expensive subway in New York City, and that's great because you need mass transit in a city like that. But it costs billions of dollars, and the state takes the money from our bridges and roads and sends it to New York City instead to build that infrastructure. Our recipe for success means that we need investment in our infrastructure here. The real kicker is that those billions that Albany spends on the New York City subway, those rail cars could be built here. We have companies right here in the Southern Tier that are world-class experts in rail construction. But there's no Buy New York First rule. So our tax dollars pay for subway parts that New York buys from overseas companies instead. Our recipe for success has to include a Buy New York First rule. We need to get education to the table too. My opponent might talk a good game, but when he goes to Albany, he votes for programs that shortchange us. On childcare, the state funds universal pre-K for New York City, but not here. How does that make sense? Pre-K is good for kids and working parents no matter where they live, whether you're in Brooklyn or Bath, Cornell or Harlem. Albany has also promised to pay for 1/3 of our community colleges' budgets, as long as the counties come up with their own part through property taxes. But every single year, that state money just does not show up. We need to get education to the table. That's part of our recipe for success. Finally, we need to get corruption off the table in Albany. For too long, corrupt politicians in Albany have put the interests of massive corporations and donors above the working families of New York. From upstate to downstate, New York City to Elmira, and Ithaca to Buffalo, working families aren't getting their fair share because of corruption. Mr. O'Mara is happy being a part-time senator with a side job at a lobbying firm where he earns an additional $150,000 representing the corporations that rob us. How can the Southern Tier and the Finger Lakes even get to the table with a senator who isn't even sitting at the right one? Mr. O'Mara is sitting at the table for corporate lobbyists who rob our region of their resources for their corporate profits, who only give universal pre-K to New York City and not to us, and who have encouraged Mr. O'Mara to vote 8 times against our interests by sending 76 cents on the dollar out of the Bridge and Highway Trust Fund to other parts of the state instead of investing in jobs and infrastructure here. This campaign is funded by the people and for the people, with over 1,000 individual donors. The recipe for success for a better Southern Tier and Finger Lakes is about getting all of these issues onto the table for Albany. I'm a Democrat, and I'm proud of it. And here's what being a Democrat means to me. It means that those of us with less don't pay more than those of us with more. It means we make sure all our children can go to school, to good public schools, no matter what zip code they live in. It means we respect each other for our differences and we celebrate those. We honor Black, brown, trans, cis, Jewish, Muslim people, seniors, young people. It means women control their own bodies. And it means we stand on the shoulder of labor unions that ended child labor and got us a 5-day work week. And it means everyone, and I mean everyone, should have health care that does not bankrupt their families. But we need to fight for all of this. We have to build this recipe ingredient by ingredient and put it together into one whole that gets everyone to the table. And that's where you come in, Chemung County Democratic Committee. You are working every single day of these last few weeks toward Election Day to make sure that we get everyone to the table, that we bring our voices in, and that we celebrate all that is good and all that is coming to us in the future. Thank you so much for making this happen.